It's a lovely Friday. Good morning and thanks for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Let's bring you the news update for this time. Now, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control has reported 566 new cases of COVID-19, taking the country's total number of confirmed cases to 176,577. Lagos recorded the highest number of new cases with 283 new infections, followed by Akwa Ibom State with 88 new cases. Oyo and Rivers States recorded 62 new cases each, while the Federal Capital Territory recorded 18 new cases. So far, 323 people have been discharged, while 2,178 people have died from COVID-19 complications. Return to work and negotiate with state governments. That's the federal government's position on the resumed resident doctor strike, which has now entered its 5th day. Minister of Health Osage Ehanire explained that 7 of 12 matters raised by the National Association of Resident Doctors were the responsibility of state governments, insisting that the federal government will join in negotiating with the states. But while that is ongoing, the doctors must continue working and not turn away patients. The minister is also pleading with other health workers to stand in the gap and save the lives of the Nigerians who need proper health care during this time. Correspondent Kemi Balogun has the story.
This is the first time the National Association of Resident Doctors is going on strike in the first half of 2021. It has been a series of negotiations and dialogues in the past couple of months between the striking doctors and the Minister of Labour and Employment. Still, the association believes that both the state and federal governments have been slow in responding to its demands.
Who wanted to sit for clinical exams?
The Minister of Health is now weighing in to plead with the striking doctors to go back to work and has urged other hierarchy of doctors to stand in the gap and save the lives of Nigerians who need proper health care during this time.
Go back to work even before we go on to start addressing the questions that they have raised. Repeatedly advise young doctors that going on strike is not the best thing to do. It is not the best thing to do at all, not only because it can put the lives of innocent people at risk over some money, no matter how much.
Dr. Ehanire says the federal government has opened the doors for ongoing negotiations and wants the doctors to resume, while still insisting that the federal government cannot forcefully urge states to comply with the demands coming from the association.
Putting everything together and putting the sins of everybody onto the federal government level table is not correct. It's not correct. It's unjust. It's unfair and does not solve the problem. I advised all our medical directors and chief medical directors to ensure that nobody is left unattended to, that nobody is turned away, and I'm saying that right now for the benefit of all medical institutions under federal and also under state government and local government. Do not turn everybody away. Do not leave anybody unattended to.
We have a duty to protect the health of Nigerians. We have the letter written to us stating all the items, and we are willing to address each of these items one by one.
The Association of Resident Doctors says this present strike is happening after a critical appraisal of the performance of both federal and state governments on all issues affecting the welfare of its members, and they believe the insincerity of government in implementing the Memorandum of Action is the reason behind this strike. This strike is coming after a previous one has been shelved for about 3 months. Now the federal government is assuring the striking doctors that it will join in the negotiations on the issues in contention. Kemi Balogun, TVC News, Abuja.
To other stories now, the Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party will set up a committee made up of governors, lawmakers and other senior members to review the situation of the party and come up with a resolution that will amicably settle all differences. The leading opposition party convened an emergency meeting following the resignation of 7 members of the National Working Committee and the defection of other prominent members that has ruffled feathers inside the party. Chairman of the party's Board of Trustees, Senator Wali Jibril, says that this is not a time for the party to engage in infighting, and the national chairman of the party, Uche Sekandu, says that a planned National Congress will ensure a smooth transition.
It was a very, very peaceful, cordial meeting. And we resolved in the meeting to set up a committee that will look at the situation. A committee made up of governors, of members of the BOT, members of the National Assembly, all the members of the National Working Committee, former governors, former ministers, so that they can holistically look at the problems within PDP.
What transpired at our meeting is the fact that we all came together and addressed that there's some issues and there's urgency on the matter. We've agreed that we'll set up this committee urgently, and within the next 48 to 72 hours they will meet, and at the end of that meeting the country will see the direction which the party is going. The commitment of everybody to attend that meeting and agree to subject themselves to the decision of that meeting shows the interest of everybody. And the presence of all of us here is because of that meeting. This meeting today was important.
The Supreme Court has affirmed the appointment of the governor of Yobe State, Mai Mala Buni, as chairman of the All Progressives Congress Caretaker National Convention Planning Committee. A 7-man panel of the Apex Court, headed by Justice Emmanuel Agim, held that Governor Buni's position in the APC is not contrary to the provision of Section 183 of the 1999 Constitution, but it is on a temporary basis, which is not akin to executive office or paid employment as envisaged by the section. Various interpretations have trailed the Supreme Court's judgment on the Ondo State governorship dispute, making references to the legality or otherwise of Governor Buni's leadership of the APC. A part of the pronouncement of the Apex Court, according to the document made available by the legal advisor of the APC, Professor Tahir Maman, is that no other law or act can be relied upon to disqualify a candidate in an election save for provisions of Section 182 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Supreme Court also said that non-compliance with INEC directives, regulations, guidelines, or manuals for the purpose of election, but which is not contrary to the provisions of the Electoral Act, shall not of itself be a ground in an election petition. Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum has ordered the State Police Command to immediately investigate the violent collusion between a joint security task force operating with the Borno Geographical Information System and some worshippers at a branch of EYN Church at Madumagiri. The governor condemned in strong terms the firing of gunshots by a member of security task force, as well as some persons who allegedly hurled stones at the task force during an encounter on Thursday, which resulted to the death of one person. But residents of the area are very angry and are demanding for justice over the alleged unlawful demolition of the building. Correspondent J.C. Tafida has the story.
Lamentations by residents of Moduganari community of Maiduguri fill the air. Both young and old voiced out their grievances against to what they believe as an unlawful exercise. Staff of the Borno Geographic Information Service, the agency responsible for the maintenance of land, were said to have entered the community at about 11 o'clock in the morning with a grading truck bringing down the worship center without notifying owners of the church. While residents of the community tried to find reasons for the action, the civilian joint task force attached to the agency allegedly shot in the air to dispatch them, resulting in the killing of one person and 5 others sustained various degree of injury.
We were standing here, then we just saw a bunch of civilian JTFs rushing towards our direction with sticks, threatening that they are going to injure us or even kill us if we did not vacate this place. Thank God for the intervention of the police officers that came, that actually stopped them. And up to now, we are still there at the scene, waiting for what's next to happen.
He says we were working in the church together with 7 of my friends when they came to demolish the structure. Before we could ask what was going on, we started hearing gunshots, and one of my friends immediately fell on the ground with blood rushing from his head. The rest of my friends were wounded, and I was the only one that escaped. This one says, I'm the owner of the pure water house attached to the church that was demolished. The exercise also affected my building, and we demand to know why this was done without any notification. I have legal documents of my property, and I'm ready to present it to the agency. What I want now is justice from the government. When TVC News visited the state specialist hospital, our camera lens captured a corpse of the person alleged to have been shot by the CJTF and those injured. Efforts to get the state police command and the agency to comment on the incident proved abortive, as none of them responded to calls. Jesse Tafida, TVC News, Maiduguri.
The Lagos State House of Assembly has reduced the pension of former governors of the state by 50%. A statement signed by the Chief Press Secretary to the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly on Thursday said that the decision was taken after the adoption of a report by the House Committee on Establishment, which recommended the reduction of pension for former governors and other affected officials by 50%. The committee also expunged the provision of houses in Abuja and Lagos for ex-governors as stipulated in an earlier law operated by the state. The report further showed a reduction in the number of vehicles to be made available for former governors and their deputies. The Speaker of the House, Mudashiru Basa, suggested that former governors should get 2 vehicles instead of 3 as recommended by the committee. He also suggested that the amended bill should provide that the cars be changed every 4 years instead of the 3 years recommended by the report. You're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's go on a break and we'll bring you more on the program. Stay with us. You're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get into our discussion now. A former Chief Justice of the Gambia, Justice Emmanuel Fagbenle, has said that the extradition of Al-Baqarah to the United States would not be automatic. Now, according to him, his extradition is subject to proper judicial process. He says it is the court pronouncement that could hand him over for extradition, without which his extradition could not be possible. Extradition has a judicial process between 2 countries that have treaties, in this case between the United States and Nigeria. And until the completion of judicial process or procedure binding both countries, Al-Baqarah may not be heading to the United States anytime soon. The Deputy Commissioner of Police, Al-Baqarah, was suspended to give room for investigations following allegations against him by the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the United States. So joining me now via Zoom from Abuja is human rights lawyer and member of the Lincoln's Inn, London, Dr. Daniel Bwala. Dr. Bwala, it's good to have you join me this morning.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Now, this case, some people will see it as really complex. Others who have a great understanding, may see it as really simple. Make us understand either side. Is this case too complex, or is it just a simple thing that we need to have an idea of?
I like the way you frame the question. The answer is actually in the same way you ask the question. It can both be simple or complex, depending on the response you get from the host country. So again, it is a simple procedure if the government is willing and is ready and excited about turning the Al-Baqarah to the United States. Because internationally there are 3 procedures. There is one that is called extradition, which is consistent with treaty based on agreement. And understandably, Nigeria has treaty with the US. But that will take judicial means, which means that the Attorney General will have to go to court and file for the extradition. That may, and then the defendant, or rather the person seeking to be extradited, might also need to object to whether or not he feels it is appropriate for him to be extradited. That process might now make it a little bit difficult because it will take time. But the part that is simple is that there are other procedures recognized by law and some not recognized. One is called rendition. The second one is called extraordinary rendition. Rendition is the process of extradition without the judicial process. So, for example, if you have mutual legal assistance with that country, you can decide to turn the person up to the law enforcement of that country without having to go to court. It's called rendition. Extraordinary rendition is in a situation where there is no treaty between the two countries and the dominant country wants to exercise dominance power. So you can intimidate the other country, can even use force where necessary. But extraordinary rendition is rejected by the International Convention, international law, because when it was introduced or when the concept was developed was during the administration of President Bill Clinton, when the US, CIA, and some of their law enforcement were using force to take suspects from one location to the other for the purposes of interrogating and torturing them. So in all cases where you have extraordinary rendition, there must be element of torture, there must be element of hard interrogation, which is rejected by the international community. But there is a rendition which is not extraordinary. It is another means by which nations can apply mutual legal assistance to turn over that person without having to go through the court. So that is why I said it can both be simple and difficult depending on how the host country is intending to deal with the matter. And I do not think in Nigeria the government will be in a hurry to just turn him over until first the police comes out with their report. If the report indict him, then the Nigerian government can decide either of these two, either to prosecute him for the offenses that relates to Nigeria, and after he's convicted, then they can turn him over to the US, or they can decide to turn him over to the US without prejudice to the offense that they have found him guilty of. Because again, the nature of the offense will determine how soon he's extradited or not.
All right, now let's enlighten us here a little bit. When treaties are signed, procedures and the issue of understanding is kicked in and everything is spelled out. Now, in this case between Nigeria and the United States, the treaty has been signed since the 30s as it is. But when the Attorney General of the Federation is saying that the courts will have to decide, what is the court deciding when the treaties are clear between Nigeria and the United States in the case of extradition? Can you enlighten us from that window?
So it is the treaty that actually provides for that process of trying the person in court, because the extradition treaty is to the effect that the person that you are seeking to extradite to another country must first be taken to the through the crucible of judicial process in your home country. So if a request, for example, under the treaty, if a request is submitted by the US government to the Attorney General, usually it's a communication between both Attorney General. So Attorney General of the United States sends the request for extradition to the Attorney General of Nigeria. Attorney General will look at the request, then he will approach either the Magistrate Court or the Federal High Court. Now, when he approaches the court, his argument will be that X, Y, Z, or A has now been indicted for such and so offense, and under the treaty agreement we have signed with the United States, we can turn over each and every individual of our countries for the purpose of dealing with crime, locating of those individuals. Now, the Nigerian judicial system will look at whether or not there is merit. And the reason why treaty established the judicial process is that so that tyrannical government do not exact their power of tyranny on their citizens simply because they want to have some political expediency or for the purposes of political exchange. So there has to be a judicial means of determining whether or not the offense alleged requires or deserves extradition. So it is actually the extradition treaty that provides for the judicial administrative procedure of turning the person over to the next country.
All right. Now, the call for a 10-day pretrial detention of Al-Baqarah, what is the implication of that, and how does this relate to the extradition process?
Well, it's optional. Pretrial detention, because again, like I said, you look at the offense alleged. So if, for example, the offense is a heinous crime, which comes under the universal principle of the United States, and heinous crimes under that universal principle are crimes that are considered like terrorism or maybe still a child slavery. So if the offense falls under that, then the government of Nigeria can begin to exercise some of this procedure for pretrial detention to be sure that the alleged accused person does not escape justice. But in this case, the offense that is alleged is wire fraud, which falls under the protective principles of the United States. And that one, the offense usually is either wire fraud or you're obstructing the smooth administration of the U.S. government. And wire fraud falls under U.S. national security because the funds that was alleged to have been embezzled or siphoned or stolen by a hush puppy, so to speak, are some of the funds fall within the national security project of the U.S. government. So it will not, in this circumstance, based on the alleged offense, it will not require for any pretrial detention. Detention usually is only applied if the accused person will interfere with investigation or will evade justice. But I don't think the profile of the person in question will require for him to be detained before he's taken to the U.S. government. And at the end of the day, it may not go. Let me tell you, my brother, there is a question people haven't answered. I have been asking the question because when this thing broke out, I was in New York, and understanding the way intelligence works, I asked the question, could it be that the alleged offense may have been committed because of sting operation by the law enforcement? Because sting operation is one of those procedures where the person alleged to have committed the offense may have actually committed the offense legally for the purposes of discovering criminal cartel. So sting operation, usually when it is conducted, the agent that they send like a spy can do everything that is being committed by the alleged offenders or the suspects or the criminals. So we don't know what the report of the Nigerian police will come. If it is a product of sting operation, then the FBI didn't do good to Nigeria by simply announcing for his arrest without first comparing with their Nigerian counterpart whether his link to those crimes are part of sting operation. But again, that is not conclusive proof. I just asked the question because even in America, when they send agents for the purpose of discovering criminal cartels, this kind of scenarios will happen. And if it does happen, then that offense, he will be exonerated from it because it is an offense that is committed for the purpose of discovering criminal cartel.
What a way to look at these issues. It's good you're giving us perspectives to look at the possibilities and dynamics of issues like this, which makes it even more complex. Now, a lot of persons have said that that is not just Al-Baqarah that is on trial here, that the Nigerian police as a whole is on trial when it comes to how they approach this issue. What do you say about that?
Yeah, if, for example, the alleged offense is finally confirmed to have been committed by Al-Baqarah, then the Nigerian police is under trial. As a matter of fact, the government of Nigeria may not be willing to surrender him to the U.S. government because that may uncover, it's just like the Emerald scandal, it may uncover some bigger and deeper mess for the Nigerian police. So Nigerian government would rather that they deal with the situation locally, if it is true, because number one, he's a spy cop. Number two, he is one of a kind. He's one in a million in the police system. So if somebody like that would go down in crime, then certainly the Nigerian police will now be profiled to be under trial, and that may lead to a major reform in the Nigerian police. Again, based on the criminal justice system, he is innocent until he's proven guilty. And at this point, he has not even been charged to the court in Nigeria. He is mentioned in the U.S., an order for his arrest is made, but I do not think he is joined as an accused person in the U.S. court.
All right. Now, from the perspective you just looked at it from, is being a super cop and someone who is a spy cop and all of that. Also, if he is sent, maybe it is not just about this trial. So many other bigger issues can come up which we may not even have seen yet. If one sees it plainly from that perspective, would one conclude that maybe Nigeria may not be ready to hand him over for extradition?
Yeah, because number one, there are even three elements of it. The element number one is the willingness of the Nigerian government. And that would depend on their findings, whether the offense is that which they will expose the country to ridicule, or they will deal with it locally. That's one element. The second element is the judicial system, which the Nigerian government cannot control, the US government cannot control, because a fair trial must be conducted. And fair trial is a trial where both parties are heard. You remember the case of Kashimu. It didn't happen just so fast. Even if a terrorist is discovered in Nigeria, it can't be that easy. How much more a spy comes? Then the third element is the US. So, for example, if the US government is so desirous of arresting him, and they see that these type of things are likely to delay, they may apply the extraordinary rendition by monitoring his movement. And one day you will just hear he has disappeared, and you will be wondering what happened. So these are some of the things that dominant countries do. But I don't think they will want to destroy the relationship they have with Nigeria. Nigeria is pivotal to the success of US, and Nigeria also cannot succeed without the US government, because 85% of all our intelligence and law enforcement training is not concluded until they are trained by the FBI.
Interesting. Looking at this from that perspective, especially when it comes to the issue of diplomatic and bilateral relations, of course, everyone is going to guard it jealously to see how we keep this going. But how will this impact on bilateral relations if it is not handled well?
As it stands now, everything is going well, because one, when he was mentioned in the court document and an order for his arrest was issued, the next thing we find was that the US FBI agent were in Nigeria, and they had a meeting with the IG of police. So Nigeria was not running away, but did not, evade having a meeting with them. They had a meeting. Immediately after the meeting, we heard that the IG of police suspended him and then contacted the Police Service Commission, formed a committee to deal with the matter. So the way things are going, I think US will be excited. The Nigerian government is prompt in their request for the purposes of extradition. So it will not affect the bilateral relationship. But assuming, if at the end of this investigation by the police now finds that he has not committed any offense, and it is clear from the face value that he has committed an offense based on the US law, then that might be a problem for the Nigerian government unless they can furnish. So the only excuse the Nigerian government can give to the United States government is to say that crime that he was alleged to have committed was part of a sting operation. And let me tell you, quite frankly, have you wondered why he's oftentimes seen with celebrities, people who flaunt their wealth without having to explain the source of their wealth? This is how you know when agents are investigating, because you cannot successfully gather intelligence on criminal cartel until you get your agent to mingle with them, infiltrate the system, in fact commit the crimes with them, because you are taking your time to discover the extent of the criminal linkage and collaboration. So the only excuse the Nigerian government can give is to say it was a product of a sting operation. Anything other than that might be very, very difficult to convince the US government, because again, the FBI did not just sleep and wake up the way some of our law enforcement do investigation. They will take however long. That's why anytime they present an accused person with evidence, the next thing you hear, the person is asking for plea bargain. Because what they will present to you will be such that it will be impracticable and very difficult for you to defend. And I'm sure that in this case, imagine from 2020, when Hush Puppy was arrested, until 2021, before the court document was released, they may have done a thorough investigation. So it will be extremely difficult. It will be extremely difficult for the Nigerian government to just throw this thing out of, or rather sweep it under the carpet.
All right. Now, if we see from that explanation you brought now, seeing it as a sting operation, for instance, we're just creating scenarios like you have said. If that comes up, would there be possibility of interpreting it to mean that the government has likeness for him and is shielding him from prosecution? Is that a likelihood too?
Yeah, the US government will interpret that, but it is not just enough for Nigerian government to say it's a product of sting operation without providing proofs. So if you say it's a product of a sting operation, you must provide intelligence and document that will trace it back to when this investigation started. So it will not be that a crime is committed and you are trying to cover it, because there must be some document to say that at so time long before his link to that person started, there is a communication where it says that certain investigations should be carried out on these individuals, and these are the modalities. This is the approval for the sting operation, and these are steps taken. So if Nigeria is able to furnish the U.S. government with documents that would trace to the starting of the operation, which must be long before the alleged crime was committed, then that will be fine. But if you just say it's a product of sting operation without furnishing facts and figures that also will inform the U.S. government to look at it, forensically, whether or not that is true, I don't think the U.S. government will just take it because you say it. And in fact, if it is a product of sting operation, the U.S. government might require to even apologize to Nigeria, because what it means is that by busting that operation, it will affect so many other sting operations ongoing in the country. So it is not just to say it. You have to furnish it with proofs, evidence that can be traced.
All right. The subject is Al-Baqarah is seen as very central to issues of national security concerning his position and some of the cases that he's been handling. Is it likely, or is it possible, also for Nigeria to request to try the case locally, if at all?
No, generally they don't, because even if it were to be the American citizen, in fact, that is the part that people criticize the U.S. Despite the treaty, if a U.S. citizen commits a crime, no matter how heinous the crime is, they can never turn their citizen to you to try. They will promise you that they will try the person to the letter, and they will prove to you that they are actually pursuing the case by trying to convict him, but they won't just hand him over. Now, that's one. But on the Nigerian side, I don't think it will be just that easy to turn him over, because you must first, if the product of this investigation by the panel set up, they are able to elicit information leading to crimes committed that are under our law. The requirement is that before you turn him over, you have to try him and convict him for the offense committed that has to for the offenses that contravene the laws of Nigeria. It is after he's convicted, then you can now send him. In fact, in some cases, some countries, what they do, they convict you, you serve the sentence, and after you serve the sentence, before they extradite. But if the dominant country, like in the case of US, do not believe in the justice system in Nigeria, they will make a case that, look, we don't believe, even if you are going to try him for this offense, that this trial will finish on time or that justice will be seen. And once they're able to punish that fact, Nigerian government will have to trust the agreement, the extradition agreement, and turn him over. But from the way I'm looking at it, extradition is very unlikely in the short term. Extradition will definitely have to be in the long term.
Wow. All right. Dr. Daniel Boala, thank you so much for your insight into these issues. There are legal issues, there are social issues, there may also be political issues around it, so it makes it a little more complex. But thank you for breaking it down for understanding.
Thank you, as always.
Thank you. Right. Now you're watching TVC Breakfast. Up next will be time for us to look at the paper review across papers in Nigeria. Stay with us. You're watching TVC Breakfast. It's time to look at the headlines across Nigerian newspapers this morning. And I have my regulars to make sense of all of this. We have in the studio Chartered Accountant and Public Affairs Analyst, Sheson Kwade. Good morning. It's good to have you join me.
Mike, good morning.
And thank God it's Friday.
It's a day we all look up to for us to rest after the...
No, of course, there will be. Well, and CEO CKN News, Chris Kendewandu is here with me as well. CKN, good morning.
Thank you, Mike.
And thank God it's Friday. Please, don't make them look for me.
I don't want
to. I tell you, many of the things that happen in the studio are just our own program by itself.
It's a program.
It's for our own program, for our consumption. Thank you. All right, let's begin with the Nigerian Tribune now. Nigerian Tribune says things getting worse in Nigeria. Sultan says, that's the Sultan of Sokoto. Suspend arms sales to Nigeria. Akintoye Nwodo to Raki tell US and the EU. Kano elders sue National Assembly. The AGF also over IPOB secession threat. Nigeria's dissolution won't solve problems. Ganduje tells secessionists. Okay, that's the Nigerian Tribune. Let's see if we can look at this when discussions open shortly. Daily Times is next. Kano governors to secessionists, drop your agitation, embrace dialogue. All right? Drop your agitation, embrace dialogue. Says the world will not respect Africa if Nigeria breaks up. Senator Okorocha calls for equal rights, fairness, and justice. All that on the front page of the Daily Times. From there, let's go to First News. First News says Wike dares Secondus, attends BOT meeting uninvited as PDP leadership crisis worsens. That's First News. From there, let's go to the Punch newspaper. Relief for Secondus as PDP BOT, as the Board of Trustees tackles Wike, rejects interim exco. A PDP chieftains say Secondus must complete tenure, fault party chairman's handling of crisis. A board sets up a conflict resolution committee, cautions members against unguarded utterances. That's the Punch newspaper this morning. Right, from there, let's go to the Sun, Daily Sun. PDP governors, others to decide Secondus' fate in 72 hours. BOT meets, seeks way out of crisis. Don't play into APC's hands. Atiku warns, denies fueling crisis. And Deputy National Publicity Secretary Odeyemi withdraws resignation letter. All right, that's Daily Sun. The Guardian, crisis lingers as PDP BOT fails to reach consensus. A fresh peace panel set up to resolve crisis. Members split on Wike's Secondus feud. Wike's presence generates controversy as party confirms his membership of BOT as a board of trustees. PDP national officer withdraws resignation. All this on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. The Vanguard is next. Crisis. Stakeholders rally to save APC PDP. A PDP BOT sets up reconciliation committee, and APC governors pass vote of confidence on Buni. APC explains Supreme Court judgment as crisis in Osun Enugu Festa will resolve PDP crisis with internal mechanism. Otom is saying that's the governor of Benue State. Wike storms PDP BOT meeting. Atiku calls for calm. All that political issues on the front page of the Vanguard. Daily Trust, party crisis. APC governors back Buni as founding fathers move to save the PDP. That's the Daily Trust newspaper there. Okay, from there let's go to the Leadership. Leadership newspaper. 1 month after Matawale's defection, sharing formula for political offices, tears Zamfara APC apart. All right, sharing formula for political offices, tears Zamfara APC apart. Okay. Governor demands 70%, gives 30% to Yari, Marafa, others, and so on. You see the breakdown of all of those things down the front page of the Leadership newspaper. The Blueprint is next. Blueprint says Masari to Chief of Army Staff, 10 Katsina local government areas under severe daily attacks. 10 Katsina local government areas under severe daily attacks. That's the governor of Katsina State to the Chief of Army Staff. Zamfara Speaker's father, stepmother, 4 others abducted. Kidnappers demand 700 million naira for Bayelsa SSG mother's freedom. And 24 soldiers killed in Boko Haram attacks in Chad. That's issues of security there. Okay, that's a Blueprint. National Economy says Nigeria's refineries to go up more despite 2 trillion naira spent on revamp. We can't sell dead refineries. Federal government is saying this. We cannot sell dead refineries, you know. Okay, if time also permits, we'll talk about this on the show. Business Day. Eurobond, IMF gave CBN firepower to defend Naira. Eurobond, IMF gave CBN firepower to defend Naira. All right, that's Business Day. News Direct is the last one we're looking at now. News Direct says NSC border security, uncertainty over supply of $18.12 million cargo scanners for seaports. Uncertainty over supply of $18 million cargo scanners for seaports. That's on the Customs Service border security. Okay, that's News Direct. Okay, Now let's start with this story on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Things are getting worse in Nigeria. Sultan says suspend arms sales to Nigeria. Akintoye, Nwodo, Turaki and others are telling the US and the EU. CKN, I wonder what you make of this. When the Sultan is saying things are getting worse, of course, that's the you will say that resonates a lot with so many Nigerians, whether it is by security or it's by economy or the case may be. But what do you make of the call that US and EU should stop sale of arms to Nigeria?
Thank you very much once again for having me. For me, things are not getting worse. Things are worse. So it's an elevation of what the Sultan said, because we've gotten to a point where everything seems not to be working again. And this is the right time where we think that we need leadership. Everything boils down to leadership. If we'll be able to get our leadership right, then every other thing will fall in place. Security, economy, name it. Practically everything is at its lowest ebb now. And as of last year, the government, especially in the economy, the government were giving the excuses of, COVID-19 it has really affected a lot of things, and but we practically gone beyond that. And so the Sultan, a revered cleric and a leader, is saying the truth. And I hope that the government will listen to what he's saying. He's not a member of APC, neither is he a member of PDP, so he cannot be seen to be a member of the opposition party because partisan. Most often than not, when you say certain things, they say, it's because you're a member of the opposition and the rest of them. But coming to the issue raised that US shouldn't sell arms to Nigeria, to me, that's a no-no. We need to get our arms. We're having serious security challenges, and every opportunity we have to be able to get as many arms as possible, we should be able to get that. This is the time for our allies in the US, in Europe, anywhere we have them, that they believe in the integrity of this country. They believe that this country should be one, we should be able to secure ourselves. They should do everything humanly possible to assist us in giving us arms. And not only that, because if Nigeria sneezes, every part of West Africa and Africa will catch go. We're over 200 million.
Africa as a whole.
Africa as a whole. They are already catching cold with most of our people migrating to their places without even well. So if we have serious problem, internal problem, we submerge Benin, all this Benin name, I don't want to talk of Ghana. Ghana Jollof will be Jollof will be a tight play, I'm telling you. So it is in their own best interest, and most often than not, what most of these countries also look at is that what is the interest for us? If anything happened to this country, how is it going to affect? Don't forget that the US has just left Afghanistan. So what is happening? Practically, the Taliban have practically taken over Afghanistan, and probably I believe that US might be regretting leaving Afghanistan the way they did. What are they doing now? Most of the interpreters that they had or they hired when they were in Afghanistan, they are now trying to ship them to the US. And it's causing a lot of problems. About 20,000 have been going to be given visas to move to the same thing happened in Hong Kong. Hong Kong is having issue with China and the rest of them. US is now making sure that most Hong Kong dissidents are given enough room to either stay in the US or get that. So anyway, in any way you look at it, it's not going to be only Nigerian problem, it's going to be a global problem for them. So the earlier the better. They've given up. We've gotten about 6 of our initial the Tucano. We're expecting another 12. We heard that there's another one that the US legislators are trying to hold on to. There were conflicting reports. The legislators say that yes, we'll look into it. The federal government, through the spokesman of the government, who is the Minister of Communication, what we read, said there's nothing like that. So we don't even know the true position of things. But the fact is that we cannot, we as Nigeria should not be seen to be telling the US and other European countries not to assist us in the problem we are facing.
All right. Maybe. Well, I wouldn't know the mind or the perspective to which the call is made. On one hand, okay, if the government has said that, or we've had issues where government officials have said there is an infiltration in the government security system, which we've heard in the past, and somehow how security agencies are ambushed sometimes, that makes them conclude that if you bring these arms to Nigeria or give them to Nigerians, they will find their way in the wrong hands? I wouldn't know if that is the perspective for the call to say don't sell arms to Nigeria. But what do you make of this, though?
Yeah, if that is the position of the South, saying the people should look for a way to stop giving us arms, we should.
Okay. So, sorry, Shazolo, let me put you on hold a little bit. We'll come back for you to make this point, but we'll have to go on a short break. You're watching TVC Breakfast. We'll be right back after the break. You're watching TVC Breakfast. We're looking at the headlines to see what the newspapers are saying this morning, and my regulars are in the studio doing justice to making sense out of all of them. I have Chris K. Nwandu here, as well as Sheson Kwade. Well, Sheson, you were making a point earlier when I asked about the story on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune.
Yeah. If the perspective at which Southern is looking at it is infiltration into the military force, I think we should do internal check of some of this problem and not withholding back, because this ammunition is like the raw material that you need to feed to make stability. We have tried to look at dialogue, look at certain things, and it's not working. And the only area people are looking at is to give it, add to add with the people that are actually, because we see the killing happening every day. One of the writers spoke about the Zamfara speaker, the father, the mother, and some people being adopted, and the ransom is being requested. So, but I feel that beyond this, economically, it's not that it's getting worse. We are already in the drain. Because an average Nigerian cannot even have the normal one. We used to have 111. That is for our meals, for people to even survive by eating. Now it's gone to like 010. People just look for something to take during the day and go to bed, wake up.
Just to survive.
Just to survive. And when you are not economically empowered, you are as good as a dead person. So if we can look for ways, we have suggested so many things, but the government just decide on their own to do it. Can we ask the question, the fundamental problem that is here, and address it? Put long. Everybody is suffering, and because people are suffering, they are tilting more towards the side of criminality. It's not only the abductors and other things. Crime is ravaging every day. Even in the state where we are, people are being attacked in their car. We are only talking of the big one, but the small ones are facing us there. So things are really, really bad, and government must look critically into it, because people that are not empowered economically, definitely no other things for them to do than to venture into criminality, and the life of citizens who are just innocent might just be at risk on this particular thing.
Okay. The Blueprint newspaper says 10 Katsina local government areas are under severe daily attacks, and that's the governor making that statement, calling on the Chief of Army Staff to do something about it. Chris?
It's quite unfortunate. This is a paradox because Katsina State is the home state of the president. So if that is coming from the governor of Katsina State, then that shows the level of insecurity across Nigeria. Not only in Katsina State, even in Borno State, several local governments in Borno State are being attacked on a daily basis. In fact, at a point we heard that there are just certain local governments, the only place that you can safely go to is just the local government headquarters.
Yes.
Anything apart from that is a problem. And that also stretches to other parts of the country. So it is worrisome. The president normally go to Katsina State to have his holidays, and I also know that people, especially governors, whenever I go to his state, governors troop down there to visit him and the rest of them. But if we're having this high level of insecurity in Katsina as a state, then you can imagine what is happening in Zamfara and other parts of the area. Benue State governors several times have come out to say, this is the problem I'm having. And what always come out, especially from the spokesperson of the government, is, oh, what are you doing? is because you are not in the opposition and the rest of them. But this is coming from a governor of APC, if you understand what I'm trying to say. So it is not a, and that is, for him to come out with that statement means that he is having serious security challenges in the state. And there cannot be any development without, irrespective of whatever you try to put in place, it will always be a problem.
Okay. Sheson, before us, we'll round off just in 1 minute. The point there is the military has always assured of being on top of the situation. But when they're handling issues from here, we have issues busting out at the other side, and so on and so forth. Now, what do you make of the assurances, continuous assurances from the military?
These things we've been hearing in the last 5-6 years of taking charge of some of these things, but it keeps increasing, keep getting worse on daily basis. But the perspective I've given to it is the CSO of each state, which is the governor. What are we doing internally? Like we keep saying, some of those problems emanate more from the ungoverned area where they lack, the presence of governance just to pass their grievances to the government. We keep saying it, like Sikia said, if you go to Maiduguri, the state capital is not being told, because if that is done, then the governor will not have a grip on it. So you discover that most of this problem is being felt at the ungoverned area. So what is the government doing to penetrate into this locality and let them feel the presence of governance in such a way that there will not be a reaction for them to be heard? You see, this banditry and adoption and everything is another way of agitating, of saying we want to feel your presence in our area. So the state government should look for a way to make sure that this locality too have the impact. You see, it keeps increasing. A local area that is being termed to be very peaceful, after a short while you just hear that people are actually making unrest and certain things. So government should swing into action and make sure that there is serious penetration into the locality for more peace to reign.
In fact, just a few days ago, we heard the governor of Borno State had supported about 1,000 hunters, as a way of helping in security.
But that's still they can do.
Yeah, we have to leave it here now. And thank you very much, Sheson Kwade, for coming on the program.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And Chris Kindewandu, thank you very much for coming.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. You're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's bring you the news update. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control has reported 566 new cases of COVID-19, taking the country's total number of confirmed cases to 176,577. Lagos recorded the highest number of new cases with 283 new infections, followed by Akwa Ibom State with 88 new cases. Oyo and Rivers States recorded 62 new cases each, while the Federal Capital Territory recorded 18 new cases. So far, 165,323 people have been discharged, while 2,178 people have died from COVID-19 complications. Return to work and negotiate with the state governments. That's the federal government's position on the resident doctor strike, which has now entered its 5th day. Minister of Health Usagi Hanire explained that 7 of 12 matters raised by the National Association of Resident Doctors were the responsibility of state governments, insisting that the federal government will join in negotiating with the states. But while that is ongoing, the doctors must continue working and not turn away patients. The minister also pleads with other health workers to stand in the gap and save the lives of the Nigerians who need proper health care during this time. The Lagos State House of Assembly has reduced the pension of former governors of the state to 50%. A statement signed by the Chief Press Secretary to the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly on Thursday said that the decision was taken after the adoption of a report by the House Committee on the Establishment, which recommended the reduction of pension for former governors and other affected officials by 50%. The committee also expunged the provision of houses in Abuja and Lagos for ex-governors as stipulated in an earlier law operated by the state. The report further showed a reduction in the number of vehicles to be made available to former governors and their deputies. The Speaker of the House, Mudashiru Obasa, suggested that former governors should get 2 vehicles instead of 3 as recommended by the committee. He also suggested that the amended bill should provide that the cars be changed every 4 years instead of the 3 years recommended by the report. Two persons have been killed in an early morning flooding incident in Jalingo, the Taraba state capital, on Thursday. The flood, which accompanied a heavy downpour, also destroyed property worth millions of naira. Governor Darius Ishaku visited scenes of the disaster for an on-the-spot assessment and to sympathize with the victims. The governor said that blockage of waterways and the drainages were responsible for the flood and urged residents to maintain sanitary rules. He assured the victims of the state government's support. And in Osun State, one person has been killed during an armed robbery operation in Borikwe local government area of the state. Two new generation banks were attacked at about 3 p.m. on Thursday. The armed robbers, numbering more than 20, according to eyewitnesses, invaded the banks and shot sporadically into the air to scare residents. The State Police Public Relations Officer Yemisi Opalola, who confirmed the incident, said that men of the force had been deployed to the area to maintain calm. It is, however, not yet confirmed if they carted away money, but the ATM points of the banks were vandalized. You're watching TVC Breakfast. Next is the business segment with David Alabi.
Hello, welcome to a Friday Business News Report. It's now time to bring a feature on the show today as we look at Nigeria's ranking as the second poorest country in the world in terms of food affordability. Well, this is according to a recent report by a UK-based think tank, the Institute of Development Studies. Now, in the report, more than 1 year since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, there is a vast disparity between countries in terms of proportion of average wages needed to afford enough food. The top 10 countries where basic food is least affordable are Syria, Nigeria, Ethiopia, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, Ghana, Indonesia, Algeria, Iran and Uzbekistan. Basic food is least affordable in Syria, where the minimum recommended monthly spend would account for about 177% of the average wage income per adult, followed by Nigeria, where 101% of the average wage is spent on food. Joining me now to discuss this and much more in our Lagos studio, I have John Akerele, agribusiness expert. Good to have you on the breakfast show this morning.
Good morning.
This report does not necessarily come as a surprise to you. Do we understand that we're having a situation of food crisis? Do you think the government understands this body language? I have the Commissioner for Agriculture, Lagos State here, and the conversation was just around having states now become food hubs, looking at areas of where they can have some level of strategic investments to ensure that we have agriculture become the mainstay. But it's not as simple as just having investments. What don't you say?
Thank you, David. I think this is just to give a confirmation to all that we've been seeing on this 4 times to that number. If you should look back, there's a time we predicted that we're going to have food crisis in this country due to some of the key performance index that we are looking at, And then this is just the result of all that we have been saying in time past, and now it's coming to reality, and then the government is saying, okay, this is what to do. Time ago, I suggested that we should have food hubs at strategic locations all across the state of the Federation. But now, I think when we don't respond to issues when the need arises, this is part of the consequences of what we face in Nigeria, coupled with the fact that the minimum wage is not even minimum compared to the price of food stuffs in market. Okay? And this has been an issue for all of us. All right? It has been an issue for us as a people and as a government. So in a country where you have 30,000 minimum wage, that shows to you that it's not even enough to spend in terms of food supply. Now, look at it. When we have the issue of security challenges, you see that people do not go to farm again. So we have limited stocks available for consumption. And it's now the case of the highest bidder takes the largest share. And that's what we are seeing right now. And it's going to take us a long while before we get out of this, David.
And we're already missing this year's planting season and the harvest season as well, just because of the situation of insecurity, like you've made mention of. But do you think there are any price control mechanisms that we can adopt in the short to medium term, especially as we're looking at inflation still at double digits, and then now we're expecting that with the assent of the PIB into law, we'll also have petrol subsidy also removed. That's an end to a regime that some way somehow cuts the cost on the customer who has to use energy. By the end of the day, now we're going to see likely increases in the cost of transportation, which would also have a ripple effect in the cost of food. We are having double digits now, so if petrol subsidy is removed without any other cushion, do you see us going back to almost quite an unbearable inflation rate? Wouldn't you say, despite the reversal we have now? It's going to be an unbearable inflation rate, David, because the little thing the government can do at this point is to introduce stimulus into the system. Give some kind of incentives to farmers so as to, take care of some of those logistical issues that will bring about increase in their price to the final consumer. So if government can look at those line of chain and see how they can help augment these things, then you see that the price of the product we are looking at would come a bit lower than what we are actually experiencing presently. And another thing the government can do is to now take some of these recommendations we give on different fora seriously, and that these are things that should not be taken with levity or should be jettisoned or thrown away, because it will actually come back to it all of us. Now we are all in this mess and we're all facing it together. Some families now can hardly purchase a derica of rice to eat in their homes, and this is a family that are used to eating rice almost every day, but because the money available cannot even buy what is obtainable, farmers are not going to farm anymore, so there's limited produce. And that is a larger effect we are having now. So what the government can do is to introduce stimulus into the system, or look at farmers and see how they can plug into some loopholes that actually go up most of their expenses. Because I won't lie to you, as a farmer, when you look at your overhead cost, you bring it back to what you have as a produce and you divide it and add your own profit margin. And that's what will come about the price of tomato from 4 pieces that is 100 naira to now 4 pieces that is 250 naira, even in my 12. So price controls are not feasible at this point in time. Now, let's force the hand of government to look at some of the issues around transportation, food storage, and then management of waste as well. How do we also begin to process? We had this conversation the last time, but for the sake of clarity now, at this point in time, what sort of interactions do you expect from farmers, players in the agribusiness sector, and then government? How do we force a roundtable session so that if government is not looking at these blind spots, we throw the lights there?
Okay, David, I think it will be unfair on my part to say that farmers are not trying in this country. Farmers are wonderful people and they have been doing excellently well in terms of contributing their own quota to the development of the country. But the onus is on the government to make sure that that political will to do the right thing at the right time is in check.
That's why I asked this question. Do you think they understand that this is a crisis we have at hand?
If our government don't understand, that shows that the reality, they are far from the reality. There's a disconnect somewhere. It's either they are not saying it, or they are not hearing it, or they are claiming to have a deaf ear to what all these things that we're actually pushing out now.
There are commendations for the government in terms of the CBN's move for Al-Baqarah's program and other initiatives just to ensure that we have improved agricultural performance. But still, that's just like a drop in the mighty ocean. Not enough is done really at this point in time.
David, anytime I keep hearing you talk about this Al-Baqarah's forum, it gives me a kind of headache. For God's sake, if you look at the amount of money that have been injected into this scheme and look at the result that we're having, they do not tally. And I keep saying it, that when government put out a particular fund into a sector, there should be a monitoring segment that will look at, okay, what is your performance? If you put money in this sector, if they are not performing, why not have a review? Who are those people that receive the money? You say you are giving 2 million farmers aid to up their farming game. You have given them seed plan. At the end of the season, what is the output from all those farmers that you gave money to? And these are questions that should be answered. But in this country, we just throw money into the air and then we close our eyes and believe that all is well, when all is not even well. So I think at this point in time, when government bring out funds into a particular sector, there should be a monitoring thing that monitor that the money is used to the latter. There should be a monitoring that say that, okay, at the end of the day, this is the expected projected output. Mind you, we keep putting money into this sector. Al-Baqarah's from, I don't know that one that we talked about. The metric ton we produce in rice is not increasing. That of plantain is not increasing. Potato is not increasing. Tomato is not increasing. Yeah. Then what are you saying? So where's the money? So if you keep spending money in a particular sector, you're not seeing results. I think the commissioner, the minister of agriculture should be put on a hot seat, and the critical question should be asked: who are these farmers I give this money to? Even CBN is even having a question mark in this regard. Who are those people that collected this money from you? And how far have they gone in terms of their farm settlement? What is their yearly output, and what is that contribution to the general agricultural sector or markets in Nigeria as a whole? So these are questions that should be answered. So please don't let us keep saying we keep putting money to Uncle Brothers. There's no Uncle Brothers for.
Do you think we're going to see any price controls, or as we have seasonal plants as well, what's your forecast for those that we might likely see some eases in the cost of the product at this point in time for the second half of this year?
I think we may not see any kind of ease. Why? Because our ban is depleted, all right, and farmers are not actually going back to the farm to, replant all that they've harvested. If you attend, if I'm here saying to you that we're going to have a drop in price, I'm actually lying to you. So what I think we should envisage as a people is that the government should keep on doing their best in terms of making sure that the farmland is secure for all of us as farmers to go back and farm. Imagine if you have 1 million farmers going back to the farm to farm. It means that we have enough maize that will go around, and we have enough raw material that will even go to our industries for processing. And at the end of the day, we'll be a happy people all together again.
And hopefully in states where the security situation is not as heightened with red flags, we see improved level of creation in terms of hub and strategizing in terms of having agriculture become the mainstay there. Thank you very much for your time on the Breakfast Show this morning, John Akerele. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
And hopefully the government is listening. Well, that's it from the business desk this morning. We'll take a quick break, and then when we come back, we have sports news coming up shortly with Emmanuel Akeduboah. Good morning.
Hello, welcome to Sports on TVC Breakfast this wonderful Friday morning. Let's start from the Nigeria Professional Football League scene, where the season ended on Thursday with a dramatic turnaround in fortunes for club on the final day of the season. Already crowned champions, Akwa United lost away at Lobby Stars by 2-1, while Continental hopefuls Eyimba secured a 3-1 win away at the Kada Football Club to seal their place on the continent. But Rivers United, who lost away to Sunshine Stars by a lone goal on the final day of the campaign, moved into second place after a decision by the Nigeria Football Federation Disciplinary Committee to award 3 points and 3 goals to Rivers United over a disputed match against Jigawa Golden Stars, who fielded an ineligible player. Rivers will now feature in the CAF Champions League next season, while Eyimba secures a place in the CAF Confederations Cup. Kwara United will narrowly missed out on the Continental ticket 1-3-0 at home against Katsina United. And in other results on the concluding day of the season, Abia Warriors defeated Nasarawa United by 3-1, while Kano Pillars lost away at Atlant by 1-0. Adamawa United, FC Fanyuba, Warri Wolves and Jigawa Golden Stars ended the season in relegation places. And to the Tokyo Olympics, where Team Nigeria's hope of securing more medals at the Games ended on Friday morning after wrestler Adijat Idris lost to Ukraine's Oksana Livac in the women's 50 kg freestyle wrestling event. Idris lost 10-0 to Livac, putting Team Nigeria's hunt for medals at the Games to an end. Shot put athlete Chukwuebuka Enekwechi placed 12th in the men's shot put final, while in another disappointment for Nigeria at the Games, the women's 4x100-meter relay quartet of Ese Brume, Toby Amushon, Patience George and Grace Walkocha finished 6th in the relays heat with a return time of 43.25 seconds. While the result caps a disappointing outing for Nigeria at the Games, Nigeria competed in 10 sports, securing 1 silver and bronze medal won by Blessing Oborodudu and Ese Brume. And on the medals table, Team Nigeria currently sits in 71st position on the medals table with 1 silver and a bronze so far. The country's last medal hope at the Games was Adijat Idris, who failed to progress beyond the quarterfinal stage. And the big news coming from European football is the exit of Lionel Messi from Barcelona. The club announced on Thursday that Messi will not be staying at the club after a financial and structural obstacle from the La Liga. The 34-year-old has been a free agent since the 1st of July, when his contract expired and was on the verge of agreeing a new deal with the club. Messi would leave after a 21-year career at Barcelona after joining the club as a 13-year-old in the year 2000 and made his senior debut at the age of 16 in the year 2004. He has made 778 appearances for the club, scoring 672 goals, including 120 Champions League goals and a record 474 La Liga goals. Incredible. Then we now join Omar Katuba, who joins us all the way from Germany. He's a European football expert. He joins us this morning on TVC Breakfast. Good morning to you, Omar. I know you're a big fan of FC Barcelona, Lionel Messi. You watched him over the years emerge from a prodigy into a global superstar. How did you receive that news when it broke yesterday?
It was a shocking news. It was, it still remains the biggest shocker of my football life in 2020. We thought that we had seen the worst of 2020, COVID-19, a lot of death, and then this Lionel Messi news. Even Lionel Messi was shocked. FC Barcelona themselves are shocked because it is something beyond their control. They had all agreed to sign a 5-year deal. Messi returned from his holidays in Ibiza to sign a 5-year contract and was waiting or looking forward to joining his colleagues in training, and then this shocking twist to the whole story. It's a very big shocker, and the football world is still in quote mourning Messi's exit from Barcelona. It's broken the internet. It's the biggest story on the internet right now, and that is for you to know how humongous, huge this player is to FC Barcelona and the football world in general.
12 months ago, Messi submitted a request to leave the club. And we thought 12 months after, a lot has changed, especially with the fact that we have a new president, Al-Baqarah, returning to the club. Where did Barcelona get it wrong for Lionel Messi leaving the club for free with this situation? Where did Barcelona get it wrong?
First thing first, absolutely shambolic management of the club. I think the reason Barcelona have been standing all this while is Messi. Messi has made all of the cracks not to be obvious. The club has been terribly managed by the former president Jeremy Bartomeu before Juan Laporta returned to try to correct all of the errors by Jeremy Bartomeu. But it looks like things have gone beyond control.
Now let's look at the future. Where does Lionel Messi move on from here? The season is just starting some few weeks from now. The La Liga will get underway. The Premier League starts from 2 weeks from now. The French League is also starting a few weeks from now. Where is he going to live? Where is he going to join play football next season?
Well, when you consider the economic situation of global football, the coronavirus pandemic affected the finances of clubs across the world. Barcelona is suffering, Real Madrid is still struggling. You want to look at two clubs that are the most likely destinations for Messi. PSG Football Club in France, and of course Manchester City. These are two clubs with Arab billionaires backing them. They've got bottomless pit of money. So these are the clubs that can afford measures for the Argentine legend.
On the final note, Omar, what would be your biggest memory or the biggest legacy Messi will be leaving Barcelona with after 21 years?
You cannot even point to one. Messi basically changed the fortune of this Barcelona football club. He won over 32 trophies. He scored over 670-something goals. He's the greatest player to ever grace the Nou Camp. He's the greatest player to ever play for Barcelona, and I doubt if there's any player that will be. That is if he leaves. We hear that there could be a new twist. That perhaps Barcelona is trying to play a very hard ball and turn or twist the arms of La Liga so that Messi, they can relax on their stance and allow them to register Messi. We don't know. We hope that he stays at Barcelona.
Well, of course, I could hear the fan in you speaking there at some point. But of course, we keep our fingers crossed as we look at the events unfolding in the days to come. Thank you very much, Omar Akatuba, of course, a European football expert, joined us on TVC Breakfast this morning. Well, of course, let's wrap up with another big money move for Premier League champions Manchester City, who have signed Jack Grealish on a 6-year contract worth £100 million. City announced the signing in a statement released on the official website on Thursday. The 25-year-old midfielder joins from Aston Villa after making 213 appearances over the course of 8 seasons, scoring 32 goals and making 43 assists. It becomes the most expensive British player in history and the most expensive signing by a Premier League club. remarkable achievement there for Manchester City and Jack Grealish. That's all for sport this morning. Michael, we're back with more after the break. Stay with TVC News.
You're watching TVC Breakfast. Let's get into our next discussion now. Breastfeeding is one of the most effective ways to ensure child health and survival. However, nearly 2 out of 3 infants are not exclusively breastfed for the recommended 6 months, a rate that has not improved in 2 decades. The month of August marks Breastfeeding Awareness Month, a campaign to empower women to commit to breastfeeding. Breast milk is the ideal food for infants. It is safe and contains antibodies which help protect against any common childhood illnesses. Now, women have also have health benefits from breastfeeding for a long period of time. Breastfeeding decreases the risk of mothers developing breast cancer, ovarian cancer, type 2 diabetes, and heart diseases. These are some of the things we'll be talking about in the next couple of minutes. So joining me in the studio is Bukola Olawi. She is a pediatric nurse, and she has been really passionate about the issue of the campaign for breastfeeding. It's nice to see you join me this morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Good to meet you too.
Great. Now, first of all, let us try to deal with some of the misconceptions people have about exclusive breastfeeding. What are those things? Can you give us some level of enlightenment?
Okay. Good morning, our teaming viewers.
We have a dolly baby here.
I have a dolly baby here. Okay. And one of the misconceptions that people have around it is that there's no way a child will feed and the baby will not take water.
Oh.
And we are saying 0 water. In fact, the team for last year says 0 water. You don't give water to this baby when the baby is on exclusive breastfeeding, in the sense that breast milk contains almost 88.1% water. And so if we fill up the baby's tummy with water, water does not have any nutrients. So that is why we encourage the mother to breastfeed properly for at least 20 to 30 minutes on each breast, so that the child can have maximum benefit of the breast milk.
All right. That's water breast milk controversy is always there. Mothers, in fact,
and they believe that the breast milk is not sufficient.
It's not sufficient.
It's not food that they cannot.
Because the way we eat and then you want to drink water. They feel it's the same.
They believe that the throat will be gumming together.
Oh yeah, exactly.
The baby will be thirsty, and so that is one thing we are trying to discourage, that the mothers should not give baby the water.
Exclusive breastfeeding. Now you have a dummy baby here. Let's talk about the process now, because that is also very important, and which is something that a lot of young mothers, even those who sometimes we assume to be very experienced, sometimes don't get it right when it comes to the process of breastfeeding. You have some things you want to demonstrate to us here. Let's do it now, so we have a better understanding of these things.
Some people have breastfed babies before, but how did we do it? That's the question we should ask ourselves.
Right.
Breastfeeding, I believe, is an act that should be learned.
Okay.
So all the young mothers should be supported.
So it's not natural because you're a woman, so you naturally should know how to breastfeed.
No. One needs to be trained, and that is where we're having problems, because most people, once the positioning and latching is faulty, the individual, the mother, want to withdraw from breastfeeding the baby. So if she gets it right, that is why we also talk about starting right. If she gets it right, she would be interested in breastfeeding her baby exclusively.
All right.
And so the mother wants to breastfeed the baby. She holds on to her baby this way and place the baby on the lap. Support the baby's back properly. The head of the baby will be in the groove of her hand, while she, let me wear the model of her first.
There's a way of crossing the legs too. So
there's a way.
One lap is a little ahead of
the other to support, so that the mother does not bend and she does not have pain behind her back. So she places the baby this way and put the head at the groove of the curve of her hand. Support the baby properly. The baby's tummy should actually be touching her tummy. That is one way to know that she's placing the baby properly.
That's contact.
The contact must be there.
Great.
That contact must be there. So she supports the baby with the back of her hand, and she helps the baby to hold the breast. When she holds the breast, we have the nipple and the part of the areola. So all the nipple will be in the baby's mouth. The better part of areola will also be in the baby's mouth, because the ampulla where we have the storage tank is underneath the areola. So if the baby is just sucking the nipple, the baby is not likely to get the enough milk. So the mother is we discourage this. Because when the mother does this, she's actually pulling the nipple backward. Backward. So all we ask them to do is to support the breast from beneath, so that the baby's mouth will not be drawing down. So when the nipple is in the baby's mouth, the baby's lower lip should actually turn out. And the upper one should be firmly on the nipple, the part of the areola and the gum. And when the baby is sucking, there are times that she can actually be hearing the sound that this baby is actually gulping something. So another issue that we have is perceived insufficient milk. Most people believe that these babies, the milk is not just enough for this baby. So researchers have shown that about greater than 50% of people believe that the milk is not sufficient for the baby. But I want to tell them now, I believe that mothers too are watching, grandmothers are watching. Breast milk increases over days. Let's assume a mother has delivered the baby today. Some of them will have very little colostrum. The first milk is called colostrum. We are also advocate that our mothers, our grandmothers should not discard that first milk. It's actually the best of all the milks that is coming out, because it is a compact, dense milk with antibodies. So the mother should know that breast milk flow increases over days. It increases over days. So she's not expected. Very, very few people will deliver. On the day of delivery, will have increased milk flow. So all the anxiety around breastfeed, it's not enough. This is not, the milk is not enough. We want our mother to exercise patience. Everybody around this, the breastfeeding women should please exercise patience. All they need is support and encouragement, that they should encourage them to breastfeed. And this encouragement too, in the labor room, the baby is being delivered now to the mother's abdomen and the chest. So one way they advocate that immediately a baby is born, the baby should be put to breast, at least within 1 hour of birth. That baby, we want to initiate this breastfeeding early, because initiating breastfeeding early helps to sustain it. So we are talking about sustainability. If she starts early, she will not have any difficulty. If a woman has any difficulty, it should actually be identified at the prenatal class or the antenatal class, so that all those problems, the healthcare worker around her will be able to help her or her sister to sort it out.
Now, talk to us about the issue of diet. What kind of a mother that is expecting, or an expectant mother, or a breastfeeding mother, let me put it that way, what kind of diet is she supposed to be on? Are there specifics?
Okay, there are no specific diet, but she needs to eat what we call adequate or a balanced diet. She should eat from all the classes of food. She is not eating for two, so that she doesn't get excess weight. She's not eating for two, but she's eating to have quality milk to feed this baby.
Rightly.
She should eat right. And another thing is, if she's on exclusive breastfeeding, she needs to take additional water, at least 3 to 4 liters a day. Because some people are practicing exclusive, but they don't know that they should even rehydrate themselves back or take enough water. So people are not taking. So we should try as much as possible to take fluid.
So the mothers are the ones to take the water, not the baby.
It's the mother. The mother should take plenty water. She should have adequate rest. She should eat good food. She should maintain good personal and environmental hygiene. Either a woman breastfeed a baby or not. Because another issue is, I'm going to lose the shape of my breast. I want to maintain my breast. I want it to stand out. We encourage them, breastfeed your baby. When you are breastfeeding, during breastfeeding, wear supporting bra bra that will support the breast, so that it will not drop. So even after breastfeeding, we can also package ourselves well by wearing a good bra. She doesn't need to wash her breast on each occasion when she wants to breastfeed her baby.
Okay.
A good bath a day is just okay.
Good clarification, because this issue has caused controversy at a time amongst a couple I know, where there is the insistence of the father that since you were out, you were sweating and all of that, now that you're home and you're going to attend to the baby, you need to take your bath every time before you breastfeed the baby. Because please clarify this for us.
It's not every time she wants to breastfeed her baby she has to take her bath.
Okay.
And she doesn't need to give the breast any special attention so that she doesn't contaminate the breast.
Okay.
The father that asked the woman to go and have a bath, possibly they went to a very dirty environment.
Right.
If she does that, she can actually have a bath. But if she doesn't go out, she's in with the baby, she's within her house, one bath a day is just ideal.
I see. Okay. Now, how long should a baby, for instance, you're going to breastfeed the baby now. How do you know that the baby is satisfied? And then, okay, you drop the baby. Is it when the baby falls asleep?
Okay. When the baby is satisfied, at times the baby will actually remove the mouth from the nipple. And another way is the baby will slip off. When the baby slip off, it means the baby is satisfied. And how do you know that this breast milk is okay for the baby? The growth and development. When she goes to the clinic, follow-up clinic, and the baby is being weighed, you see that the baby is gaining adequate weight. Even the mother too will know that this baby is gaining weight. So they should not expect that big baby is what we are talking about. Because some people want, it's not the size of the baby. Some people want the baby to be very big. It's not. It's not a fatness or bigness is not healthy, and that is not what we are looking out for. You have a way that the baby grows. For example, a baby that is born today, if the baby has a weight of like 3 kg, by 5 to 6 months you expect the baby to have doubled the weight. By 1 year, you expect the baby to have tripled the weight. So a 3 kg baby at birth, there are parameters to measure. You have the head circumference, you have the length, you have the height, you have the mid upper hand circumference. So it is not just the fatness or the increase in the size of the body that we are talking about. So mother should, once your baby is healthy, you will also know. You will feel it. The mother is breastfeeding the baby is looking at the mother's face, the baby is smiling, playing with the mother's hair or any part of the mother's body. The mother is enjoying it, and you know the bonding is there. The bonding is there.
I see, that's really nice. Now, on the other hand too, how do you know that it is time to breastfeed a baby if the baby is not crying necessarily?
Okay.
That is, how often should the breastfeeding process happen?
Okay. If the baby is not crying and the baby is sleeping, I think the mother should let the baby sleep. But ideally, because it is exclusive and because this baby digests the milk very easily, 2 to 3 hours they should breastfeed the baby.
I see. So every 2-3 hours,
every 2 to 3 hours, mothers should breastfeed their babies.
One of the challenging things I have asked is the issue of working mothers, career women, all of you mothers in the township, in the metropolis where you have to work. There is the pressure of working, there's the pressure of social, you know, all of those things. And then there's a recommendation for exclusive breastfeeding. How do mothers juxtapose this?
Okay. You see, exclusive breastfeeding, before a mother could make up her mind, she needs to be committed. When she is committed, and she decide with the husband that this is what we want to do, she will succeed.
I see.
So that commitment, the passion to do it must be there. And so somebody needs to build up the confidence of this mother. And that is we, the healthcare worker. We are going to give her adequate information concerning the breast milk, the breastfeeding, if there's any issue, who to contact, and so on and so forth. So she needs to, that confidence must be there that I can do it. So now a career woman, when she's going, she can actually express the milk. I have so many people that have monitored and were successful in exclusive breastfeeding, even bankers. bankers that did the exclusive breastfeeding and was successful. She actually has they will have a fridge dedicated to the milk. So if the baby needs the milk, they are there. So after breastfeeding, after each breastfeeding, she will express and keep, express and keep. So the more you express, the more the milk, or the more the baby suckles, the more the milk
in that expression of the milk and so on, the issue of hygiene also comes in. How should they ensure that it is not contaminated when it comes to storage?
Storage
is another issue there. And how long should it be stored and can still be used?
Okay. Actually, even breast milk, we have some that can be stored where you have good light, good electricity supply. They can actually be stored for 6 to 9 months, some.
Wow.
Where they have enough.
Okay.
But our mothers, we encourage them to store, use, and restore again. They should, if there is no electricity, they can actually stand it in a bowl of water for 6 to 8 hours in a day and give to the baby. And we don't want a situation where they warm and keep again, warm and keep again. No, just take the quantity this baby needs to take at a time, and that ends it.
It has to be fresh every time?
It has to be fresh.
Ah, okay. Now, the issue of maternity leave. I see that you sighed. Now, there has been call for the review to see how we can help mothers become more dedicated and bring up healthier children with exclusive breastfeeding by increasing the time. This hasn't really gained a lot of support the way it's supposed to be. But what do you think of this? 3 months for most of organizations and even government establishments, but there's a call to raise it up to about 6 months,
6 months
and so on.
I think our legislators need to do a lot around this. Maybe some women organization can raise up advocacy program towards this. I think it's only Lagos State government and Kaduna State government that have given only 6 months. So other state government too should replicate what is being done in Lagos and Kaduna.
Okay.
And there should be crèches, especially the issue of working mother you talked about the other time. The mother should use a crèche that is very close to her office, so that she will not be going up and down because she wants to nurse her child.
There is even the advocacy that every corporate organization should have a crèche, no matter how small the thing is. Now, the issue of assistance to the mother, because at the time of birth, you mentioned grandmother earlier, there's the issue of the husband, we are in the African communal system where people rally around a mother who just gave birth and all of that. What roles should we be playing as daddies, as siblings, as grandmothers?
Okay. If you look at the theme for this year, I said protect breastfeeding, a shared responsibility. Everybody that is around this woman breastfeeding has a role to play. The husband will move away from the traditional role of providing food for the family to support breastfeeding. So supporting breastfeeding will not start on the day of delivery, but it is something that discussion between the man and the woman. This is what we want to do. Oh, I want you to breastfeed this baby, and this is what he needs to provide: good food, need to provide support around the house chores, and encourage the mother. Oh, my darling, you are doing it right. We need, so that this woman will know that she is not alone in the business of breastfeeding. The grandmother is there. They are also there to provide assistance to her, especially around the house. The friends will also be there to encourage her, not to mock her that, yo, this present 21st century, you are still breastfeeding. I want to tell them that breastfeeding is the best and is the gold standard. Breast milk does not have, you cannot compare it with any other thing. It is the gold standard.
All right. Thank you so much, Bukola Olawi, for your time on the program, and thanks for the demonstration as well. Let me see if I can The baby should.
You want the breast
okay.
model?
No, I think just for teaching purposes and so on. Baby, how are you? Okay. It's really nice.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
This is where we come to the end of today's edition. Thank you so much. Bukola Lawi is a pediatric nurse, and she has been really passionate about the exclusive breastfeeding and the processes over the years. We thank her. All right. Thank you very much for spending your week with us. Tomorrow is, of course, the weekend starts right away. We'll see you again on Monday. But have a rethink about the issues of COVID-19. Ensure that you are adhering to all the protocols. The numbers are getting up again, and all the precaution has to be taken. Have a great weekend ahead, and bye now.